Hello everybody, this is MK with MK's class. Welcome back grade 9s to term 4 history. Our topic for today's lesson is turning points in South African history, 1960, 1976 and 1990. In 1960, a peaceful march against passes turned into a massacre at Sharpeville when 69 people were killed by the police. This was an important turning point for South Africa as the Pan-Africanist Congress, PAC, and the African National Congress, ANC, turned away from non-violent protests and formed military wings. Grade 9s, before I move on, I would like to explain the word massacre to you. This is when there is a killing of a large number of people. In 1976, the Soweto uprising and the riots that followed also created a turning point in South African history. Many countries around the world put pressure on the apartheid government to change by enforcing economic, sporting, and cultural sanctions. The 1980s was a time of violent mass protests. The National Party government had so many internal and external pressures that it was finally forced to let Nelson Mandela and other political prisoners out of jail in 1990. This pivotal event led to the next major turning point, the 1994 democratic election. 1960, Sharpeville Massacre and Langa March. The formation of the Pan-Africanist Congress, 1959. Walter Sisulu begrudgingly accepted other races participating in the Defiance Campaign of 1952. This decision upset a number of ANC members as they felt that Africans should fight for their own freedom without the help of other races. This tension became more pronounced when the Freedom Charter was accepted in 1955. Definitions for this page: begrudgingly, when you agree to something that you actually do not want to do. And Pan, all Africa or all African. What was the Freedom Charter? This system was designed to give all South Africans equal rights. Demands such as land to be given to all landless people, living wages and shorter hours of work, free and compulsory education, irrespective of color, race, or nationality, were synthesized into the final document by ANC leaders including ZK. The Africanists did not like the clause that said that government shall be based on the will of the people, both black and white. The rest of the document goes on to describe a peaceful, multiracial South Africa where everyone has equal human rights. According to the Africanists, Africa is for Africans only, and black interests should come first. They did not want to work with white people. Robert Sobukwe joined the ANC Youth League as a student in 1948. He played a leading role alongside Nelson Mandela in the 1952 Defiance Campaign. Gradually, his views parted company with those of the ANC leadership, and he led a breakaway group that formed the Pan-Africanist Congress on Van Riebeeck's Day, 6 April 1959. Sobukwe, a 35-year-old lecturer at the University of Witwatersrand, was elected president of the PAC. causes, leaders, events, short-term and long-term keywords, consequences. The ANC arranged an anti-pass march for 31 March 1960 to win public support for the PAC. Sobukwe announced that the PAC was going to have its own anti-pass campaign starting on 21 March and lasting 5 days. Workers were encouraged to go peacefully to their nearest police station without their passbooks and asked to be arrested. The plan was to bring the country to a standstill and force government to abolish passes. Events of the Sharpeville massacre. On 21 March 1960, about 4,000 workers arrived at the Vanderbijl Park police station. A baton charge by the police left one person dead. At nearby Everton police station, about 20,000 people were dispersed by low-flying jets. Definitions for this page: a baton is a thick stick used by police, and dispersed to go away or separate. At the same time as the incidents in Everton, a crowd of between 3,000 and 5,000 surrounded the police station at Sharpeville, a township about 35 kilometers southwest of Johannesburg. Eyewitnesses described the mood of the crowd as happy and expectant. There were only a few policemen inside the station, and so they called for reinforcements. Some sources say 130 extra police came with 4 armored vehicles. Other sources say 300 police came with 5 vehicles. The police had cause for concern, as a few weeks earlier 9 policemen had been killed by a mob at Cato Manor near Durban. At 1:15 p.m., a low barbed wire fence at the police station was trampled down by the crowd. A police officer was pushed over. The people in the front were pushed forward by the crowd. Suddenly, the police opened fire. Those closest to the police tried to get away, but the crowd squashed them. Some began to panic as they realized that the police were shooting with real bullets. The massacre left 69 people shot dead, mostly in the back, and about 180 wounded. The Langa March. At the same time as the Sharpeville protest, a crowd of between 1,000 and 5,000 people, led by Philip Khosana, a 23-year-old student and pack leader, marched to the Langa police station, a township on the Cape Flats, to surrender themselves and their passbooks to the police. The day before the march took place, Robert Sobukwe had written a letter to the head of the police telling him that the march was non-violent. He asked the police not to use violence against the protesters. The police baton charged the crowd, and people responded by throwing stones at the police. The police then opened fire on the crowd, killing 3 people and wounding 25. On 30 March 1960, Khosana led a march of 30,000 people to Parliament to protest against police raids. In Cape Town, Khosana was asked to call off the march. He agreed to disperse the protesters in exchange for a meeting with the Minister of Justice. Khosana led the protesters back, but when he later arrived for the meeting, he was arrested. The police, reinforced by the Army and Navy, used sticks, batons, guns, and armored vehicles against the township residents, forcing them into submission. Results of the Sharpeville and Langa incidents. A day of mourning was held on 28 March with a massive stay away. There were countrywide protests against the passed laws. A state of emergency was declared. No meetings of more than 12 people were allowed. Leave for 20,000 policemen was cancelled. Hundreds of people were arrested. Sobukwe was sentenced to 3 years imprisonment on Robben Island. Many regional and national leaders went into exile. Exile means to stay out of a country for political reasons. The price of gold on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange fell. Past laws were temporarily suspended. Gun shops in the Transvaal and Cape were sold out. There was worldwide reaction through newspapers. There were long queues at the Canadian and Australian immigration offices. The ANC and the PAC were banned. Both organizations formed military wings. The ANC formed Umkhonto weSizwe and the PAC formed POKU. Thank you for watching and most importantly for learning. This is MK's class signing out.